Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Wareham School Committee. Today is Thursday, October 4th, 2018. First, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on the agenda is public comment. Would anyone like to address the committee? Sorry. This meeting is being recorded by WCTV and broadcast on WCTV, and also an audio recording is being made by Mrs. Ruiz. Thank you, Michelle. Next is public comment. Would anyone like to address the committee? No? Okay. So we'll move on to good news. And we'll turn it over to Dr. Shaver-Hood for the first bit of good news.
And I'd like to ask Mr. Palladino to come forward.
So today we're here to recognize the Wareham High School National Merit Scholarship student. And every few years, we're lucky enough to have a student being recognized by the College Board for a National Merit Program. They take 50,000 high scores nationwide, and about 16,000 of them will be named to the National Merit Program semifinalists. And we're here today, excuse me, to recognize Nicholas Dix as one of those students recognized nationally. Again, the only Wareham High School student to be recognized this year, and it's usually every few years we're lucky enough to have a National Merit Scholarship student recognized. So we'd like to bring up Nicholas Dix and recognize him. I'll brag about Nicholas a little bit. Nicholas was one of our first cohort groups for the dual enrollment program as an 8th grader. So I've had a chance to get to know him over pretty much the last 5 years. He's so involved in Wareham High School. He's not only obviously an awesome student, but very involved in extracurricular activities and just a great role model for all of our students to emulate. So this is just one of many accolades you're going to see him receive over the next few months, but we're obviously very proud of him.
Thank you.
Comments? Put you on the spot?
I mean, are there any questions? I don't know what to say.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. You should be very proud of yourself. You and your family should be very proud. Thank you for coming tonight.
And Mr. Palladino brought it up a second ago, but I think one of the things that probably did help a lot is because I did dual enrollment, I took PSATs starting as a freshman because I was in a sophomore English class. So usually you would start them your sophomore year and then take your sophomore and junior, but I took it freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So I think that's probably something that helped a lot, was getting that extra year of practice, basically.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And Nicholas was also recognized on Monday for his AP scores as well. He scored an average of over 3 on, I believe it was 4?
The award, I think, is 5.
5 on 5 AP, and he hasn't taken any his senior year. Keep that in mind.
Was it all in the same year? 5, 8, 1?
No, not all.
Sophomore and junior year.
Wow.
And he still has another year to take more of those exams. So, like I said, this will not be the last accolade for Nicholas Dix. I can assure you of that.
Wow, congratulations.
Well,
Thank you for recognizing him here. We really appreciate it.
right.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it
You're
a lot.
welcome. But before you go, we have an honor that we would like to share with you, the National School Development Council Award for Academic Growth, Student Leadership in Learning, and we're very happy to award you this award this evening. So congratulations.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say as well, is that your dad with you? Congratulations, Dad. Good job.
Would anyone else like to share any good news? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is the minutes of our last meeting on September 20th, 2018. Does anyone have any questions, changes? Oh, Laurie, I'm sorry.
I did not.
Oh, Emily.
Sorry, I'm like trying not to cough. Homecoming's coming up for the high
Oh.
school on the 13th.
Okay, that's exciting. October 13th?
Yeah.
Is it in the gym at the high school?
It's in the cafeteria.
Oh, okay, okay. Well,
And
have a great time. Have a great time.
thank you. And the Cranberry Festival is coming up this weekend. Tickets are $10, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Will there be any school groups represented there?
Key Club.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. So now on to the minutes of September 20th. Does anyone have any questions, changes? Could I have a motion to approve them as written?
So moved.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
401.
I abstained because I was out. My mom had surgery, and I had to bring her and such. But I did watch the full video, and I just want to take the opportunity to say and recognize and thank Mrs. Fay. I just want to say I think you're the straightest shooter in the room. Thank you very much.
So next on the agenda is the update on the elementary building project. So I would invite our guests to come forward. Patrick, Bernie Pigeon from the Finance Committee, and John Foster. Come up.
Hello. I'm sorry I didn't dress, but I had to come from work. I took my kid to basket, because sports, come home, grab him, blah, 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 you know, the whole thing.
I totally understand.
Oh, Mr. Fox, how are you? Oh, Patrick. Oh, Bernie.
So welcome. So these gentlemen have joined us here this evening because during the last building committee meeting, which was this past Monday, there was a lot of discussion. There was discussion about the final cost of the project. And then there was also discussion about what the borrowing will look like for that project. So we invited these gentlemen here tonight to help us explain what that looks like and what the options are and where we'll go from here. So I guess,
I think Mr. Foster really knows more about the numbers than we do, so I think we should probably
so
let
that's
him
where we
talk.
should start, okay.
Well, I'm not sure what you have. You should have all of these printouts I've been sending over for this past several months. I know the building committee has them
Yes,
with all
so,
the different options. So you want me to go through those options?
yes. Well, no, you don't have to go through all of them, because at the building committee meeting on Monday, we did bring it down to 3 choices. So it was the 20, the 25, and the 30 years
Okay,
of level debt.
okay.
So first, if you could just explain to the committee and to everyone who's here what that means.
Okay, 20, 25, and 30 years, that would be the term of the loan. As you go up in years, the interest rate would be estimated to be higher. I think the most recent proposal that I have here is 20 years, 3.75, 25 years, 4%, and 30 years, 4.25%.
Right,
You're looking at level payments or level debt, which keeps the same rate for each year. There's also declining principal or where you're paying more principal up front, you would save on interest, but it would be higher in the beginning years, and then it would be reducing throughout the years. So what I understand, they selected or recommended the 20-year level debt. That is estimated at 82 cents per thousand. And I just received today a copy of the presentation, which broke it down by 100,000, 200,000. The average home in Wareham is $258,100. They have $258,000. At 20 years, it would be on an average home $211.56. And that basically ties out to those charts that I've sent over. Once you get into the 25 and 30-year plans, if you've seen those charts, you'll see that it's millions of dollars of interest, which the taxpayers would have to pay. So you have a debt exclusion override, which means every year the tax rate or the tax levy will go up 2.5% plus new growth, new construction. But the new construction pretty much takes care of its own increase in taxes because it's new value to the town. So over and above the 2.5%, there would be an additional 82 cents per thousand, just on the town tax.
Okay. Yes, so we do have that breakdown and of the interest payments. And so what we have shows us that by going 20 years instead of 30 years, we're going to save $14 million in interest.
Yep.
Round
These are
numbers.
all estimated figures. These came from Hilltop Securities. That's our financial advisors. Obviously, it's subject to change as far as the interest rates. They could go up, they could go down, but that's what they look like today. If we went out today, that's what it would be.
Okay, all right. And so you just used the word debt exclusion override,
Well-
which the word override is a little scary to some people.
Yeah,
So
an
I just-
override, I use that a lot because it's basically you're overriding your tax limit, your tax levy limit. It's a debt exclusion, so it ends. All the debt that's associated with this school will be paid for over 20 years. And then it ends. That's it. It doesn't add to your levy limit, other than the raising of the tax levy. It's over and above the tax levy. So the tax levy goes up to 2.5%, and this just stays the same with your level payments throughout the 20 years.
Okay, and so at 20 years, that ends.
Yeah.
And the money isn't going to be used for anything other than the construction of this elementary school.
Right. And you're going to be receiving 74.98% reimbursement from the state, so.
Right,
In
for
fact,
allowable costs.
So, yeah, so when you'll see this, what they'll authorize, or what the motion should be at town meeting is to authorize this school, there'll be a lot of verbiage that goes with it, but it'll say to authorize the debt of $90 million. You're not paying $90 million. I'll never borrow $90 million, because as this goes along, you'll be sending in reimbursements to the state. You'll spend $5 million, and you'll send those in, they'll send you 75% back. So we're never borrowing $90 million. At any one time, we'll calculate that out as the time goes by, what they'll need for certain deadlines. I'll borrow that temporarily. That'll be a bond anticipation note. You'll just pay interest on that money, and then we'll permanently finance it when we know the actual figure.
Okay, okay. Mr. Pigeon, do you want to add anything? As a member of the school building committee, explain that.
Well, I just want to be sure that everyone understands that we actually aren't going to be borrowing the full amount until at least 2 to 2.5 years out, because we're borrowing just to pay for the construction costs. And then John will convert it to a regular borrowing for 20 years on the $90 million. So I just have to caution in the case of interest rates are going up. We know the feds are meeting quarterly and they're raising the interest rates. So when we anticipate, per this chart, X number of dollars, it may be greater than that, it may be less than, but it's probably greater. And not a significant amount, but I don't want people to anticipate saying they're only going to pay this amount, and then 2.5 years later, they're paying a greater amount and be angry at us. This is, the variable is the interest, not a great amount, but it will have a small impact. But I just hope we don't sell it to say we're going to do X number of dollars on your tax rate and find that they're going to have Y and be upset with us. No, we know what's going to happen with it, and I don't want the voter to think that it's going to be a level amount for 20 years. We won't get there until John does the actual borrowing.
Okay.
It will be a fixed amount. Once we borrow this, it will be the same amount every year that we're adding to the tax levy, very close to it. That's why you're going with level payments.
Okay,
So the interest rate will be fixed, and the amount that will be over and above your tax levy every year will be fixed, basically.
once the money is borrowed, that interest rate will be fixed. And so another question that some people have had is about, well, my house is in the process of being reassessed. Can you address that
Sure.
concern?
So, to make it simple, when people come to my office because I'm the finance director, treasurer, and tax collector. So they're constantly at the window telling me,
Popular guy, yeah.
my taxes went up 4%, or my taxes went up whatever. So we have, basically what I tell people, about a third of the people go up, a third of people may go down, and a third stay the same. It's the total tax levy, the total tax amount that the town can raise through taxation is Proposition 2.5. It's not on an individual property. If all the values increase at the same percentage, which they do annual adjustments to the values, so there should be no great variances in people's property. It used to be every 3 years, and you could see that. The market could change in 3 years. Your property might have been worth $300,000 this year, could have been worth, 3 years ago, it might be worth $50,000 more, $50,000 less, but right now they update those values every year, so it should be pretty close. So if they were to double, the tax rate would be cut in half. It's just taking the total tax levy and dividing it by the total town value. That's how you get your tax rate. It's pretty simple.
Okay,
So, yeah,
all right, thank you.
you're welcome.
One thing you mentioned, and I want everybody to understand, is that by state law, none of this money can be used for anything other than the school. It can't be funneled off to pay for a statue or, a policeman or anything else. By statute, it has to be spent on the school, period, end of sentence. Not a thing we can do about it, which should make everybody comfortable at home that they're not giving away a bunch of money to the town to spend as they so see. This is spent specifically for the school. And that's very important that people understand that, because I've heard that out there already. Somebody say, well, they'll just use the money for something else. No, can't happen.
No, it is important, so thank you for pointing that out. And I also want to say thank you very much for your support at the Selectmen's meeting. I appreciate the support from the Selectmen.
Well, this kind of thing is an important thing in a community, that a community comes together to make these things happen. And, believe it or not, the process, even though you have to go through a bunch of hoops, really works because it does bring the community together, because they're going to have to come together in order to make this happen. Everybody's going to have to be on board, and everybody's going to have to come together. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's kind of one of the good things that happens out of this long, tedious process. But it's a good thing. The other thing is that individuals, in my opinion, should make sure that they have all the facts. And I know all of you are willing to take calls. I know that I can call me, and I'm willing to take calls. I know that just about all of us were happy to answer the questions for them. So make sure that everybody understands that they can get the answers to the questions. If you go there and you make a decision based on something you didn't know or somebody told you, and then you walk outside and you didn't vote for it, or you voted against it, or whatever it was, and then somebody says something to you and you say, geez, I didn't know that. That's pretty sad. That's sad. You made a bad decision on something you didn't know. So it's always good to try to find out the information. I think the school needs to be built, but it's really up to the community to pull together to make it happen.
Bernie?
I just want to clarify one thing, Madam Moderator. Madam Chairman, I was thinking of the moderator in that the article before us with town meeting is an authorization to borrow the $90 million. It does not authorize us to build a new school. That's going to be authorized by the voter
Correct.
during the election 2 weeks left from that.
Correct, yes. And we're doing our best to educate people. We have a couple of community forums coming up. After one of those community forums on October 13th, we're going to open up Minot for tours. So we're hoping that anyone that wanted to come in and take a look, that's the time to do it. We're doing our best to educate as many people as we can.
I think it's very important. Several of us members from the Finance Committee have toured both schools, and we certainly agreed the need to replace those buildings.
Thank you. Mike?
So during town meeting, when we vote on the budget, there's a section in there for town debt. Will this be explicitly listed in there for town debt? The payment that we pay for the new school? It won't. It would just be lumped in with
because you don't know what you're going to be borrowing, and you don't know the interest rate.
It won't be in there in town meeting.
You're authorizing us to borrow for this school.
No, all right, so no, I mean, I'm sorry, let's say this all gets approved, all right, and then moving forward, at each town meeting, will there be a little line item on there explicitly saying, for the Minot Forest School?
It'll be listed in the budget. It'll be listed as it'll be a debt payment, but it will be a debt exclusion. It will be outside of, when you see the town administrator's budget and he shows where all the money's coming from.
Yes.
This will be above the tax levy.
And it'll be explicitly listed.
He puts all of the detail in his budgets.
And that's to Mr. Trapiano's point, is that we're going to see where every penny of this goes. It's going to be on the town budget, it's going to be voted. It can't be spent any other way. It's hard as nails.
No, this is something that's, this book is just my side of it. This has nothing to do with the plans, the construction, anything. This is just debt for this project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into this, and when you do a debt exclusion or you have an override, the state reviews what, we have to submit all of our debt payments, show them that we've paid X number of dollars in debt that year in interest. And they're not gonna allow us to raise our tax rate without seeing that.
Exactly. It's just, I love that there's an explicit trail. It's not just, debt. You're gonna see the minor forest, and you're gonna see, budgeted paid, budgeted paid.
Once we permanently finance this, just like those sheets that I've been sending over, that's it. I mean, we may refinance it if we can get a lower rate at some
Right.
point, but you'll know every debt payment I have to pay for 20 years.
But I guess as we advocate for this, when people say, you don't know where the money's going, you are gonna be able to see black and white exactly where the money's going.
You'll see that from the first day we borrowed.
Exactly.
But that's the
Right.
Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I think what Michael was asking, it'll be a separate line item. You'll identify it within the printout that we put out at town meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't mean to confuse you guys with being like right now, like this year. No, if it gets approved, people will see that money,
Indeed. Very typically, we have line items that John produces that it says the amount of debt that we're paying.
Right.
There'll be a separate line item that'll identify this particular item.
Right, and when it's paid off, it falls off, and our taxes go down.
Yeah, I won't have to print that line item anymore.
Yeah.
This is available, it's also in the annual report every year. This spreadsheet, which I do every year, is all the debt that the town has and the payments made for each year, through the fiscal year for the term. So you can look at this, and I can tell you, back in 1989, we had a FHA sewer project. There's 2 years left on it, and this is the payment. This is in the annual report. You're able to see it. You can
Right,
see this.
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty transparent.
Okay. And it's been brought up, the notion of if we sell Deacon's later, that the money that we receive from that can be put towards this?
You have to ask town council.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what you would, I know it has to go back into real estate. If you sell a town-owned property, not tax title. When I foreclose on something, that money goes back into the general fund.
Right.
But if you sell a school building, or you sell a municipal, municipal maintenance building or something like that, I'm pretty sure the real estate has to go in a separate account for the purchase of more real estate. I'm not sure if you could use that. That's a good question.
All right.
That's a good question for council. See if you could use that, or the Department of Revenue, actually.
All right, well, that needs to be clarified, because it was stated that we could in a different meeting, but we'll have to get clarification on
sure
that.
on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? So, did you want to say something? So again, at the school building committee meeting this week, which is the group that has been working for, how long, Bernie? A year and a half? 2?
2.5 years.
Okay.
2016.
Okay. So we asked there for a recommendation on this vote, on the term of the borrowing. And that committee did issue a recommendation of 20 years of level debt. Again, that's their recommendation. That's, so now, before we call for a vote. Is there any? Go ahead.
So this vote we're taking, is it binding, or is it just another recommendation? Or?
Recommendation is
Oh,
what I'd say. You're not actually setting anything right now.
Town meeting is the only authority that can.
Yeah,
The
what-
town meeting's the authority that says, okay, we're gonna beg, borrow, or steal for the money, but they don't have to set the terms,
It's
right?
what we're gonna recommend to town meeting on the financing, how they're gonna finance it. Because the town meeting is going to be the people that are in charge of whether we can
When we
fund
go
it.
out to bid on this,
Yeah,
I'll speak to our financial advisors, it will go before bond council, and we will, at that time, say, if you recommend tonight, it's basically your article, it's your building, If you recommend 20 years and level payments tonight, that's what I'm borrowing at. If this is what you're telling the taxpayers, I'm not going to borrow 30 years, because this is what it's being, if you gave a range, it's going to be between 72 cents per thousand and $1.30 per thousand, and it could be 20 years to 30 years, you're probably not going to get it passed, because people aren't going to know what they're paying, what's coming out of their pocket.
Gotcha.
So whatever is recommended and what is explained to the voters and what the voters think they're voting on, that's what I'm borrowing.
Okay.
And so that was how I understood it for tonight. Because that's an important, very important part of it. People want to know before they vote at town meeting or at the ballot what those terms
It's
are.
really up to the voters whether or not you're going to get this school. So they have to know, it's going to cost me X number of dollars, and this is what I'm getting for my money.
Right. And that's why it's important that we point out the different options and the differences between them. For instance, when I said at 20 years, we would be saving $14 million in interest. So, are we ready to vote? Does anyone else have any questions, or? Sorry, go ahead, Dominic.
My name's Don Cameron, I'm on the Finance Committee also. I think that, I believe that it might help you, how you put down 20, 25, and 30 years, you have that option. I think that you should also let the general public, you should also show a 10 and a 15 year, because of the savings, you gotta give them the opportunity to save as much as they want. And to lower the terms, even though it might seem to be more on the taxes, I think that, that paperwork should, be brought forward. The way we saw it the other night was just 20, 25, and 30 years.
That's correct.
My personal opinion, and some of the Finance Committee spoke, that I think you should show a 15 and a 10-year, payoff figures. It just might help you pass. Just an opinion. Thank you.
But we're here tonight to make that recommendation, so when we go to town meeting, we have that amount that we recommended.
Correct.
That's my understanding.
Recommendation is yours, of course.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Just so
Okay.
you know, the difference would be from 82 cents to $1.36 for 10 years,
Yeah,
and
that's.
$1 for 15.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's sort of a balance here between the affordable and saving the money on the other side.
right.
And the 20 years is, look, every debt exclusion I know, we always fund for about 20 years. I mean, it's always been that way.
Pretty much, for sewer, for everything.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's
I should-
actually the perfect spot. It's kind of like the pigeonhole,
We want to save the town as much money as possible, because every dollar counts in Wareham, let's be perfectly honest. But we also want to take into consideration the taxpayers and the people that are living paycheck to paycheck. So we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to save the money that we can by also investing in the future of the community by building a better school.
I'm guessing that you would, if you went to, say, 15 and then 10, I'm guessing you're going to knock a bunch of people off at the 15 level, and then you're going to knock a lot more people off at the 10 level.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to do that.
No.
Right, so I totally get that it makes financial sense, but
Showed that, and just thought it might show your decision as more level-headed, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Just quickly, regardless of the decision we make tonight, will all of these be at the town meeting to show the different?
No,
No,
I
So
wouldn't
just
get
what
into
we
that town
pick will
meeting.
be the
Yes.
only one presented at?
correct.
yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, my book will have that information.
It would,
Yes, it will.
Okay. So I would accept a motion if anyone would like to make one.
I move that we recommend the 20 years level debt as our option.
Okay.
Second it.
Any discussion?
Just, I want to recognize that the school building committee has done a great job, and I was at that meeting, and it's, as a school committee member not on that that committee, I can't speak, because I'm like the third person in, so that would just break open meeting law. But I was impressed with what I heard, and I'm going to defer to their judgment on this.
I just want to let everybody know that I've only been there for about maybe a year. Judy Whiteside actually had this, and we should give Judy a little credit, because she worked pretty hard, too.
She did, she did. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. So thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate all the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to repeat again about the community forums. I think that's really important, and it's really coming up quickly. So the first one is next Saturday, a week from Saturday, October 13th, at 10 o'clock at the Wareham Free Library. And then at 11:30, Minot Forest will open up for tours on that same day. And then Monday, October 15th, at 6 p.m. in the middle school library, there'll be another community forum. So I just encourage anyone who has questions to come to one of those forums.
Joyce, will you also open up DECUS? Because I think it's important to see DECUS as well, that
Well,
the
you're right, it
condition-
is, but it's just a matter of time.
Okay,
We talked about opening DECUS that same day, but asking people to come to a forum, and then to Minot, and then to DECUS, it just seemed like too much on a Saturday.
okay,
So we'll talk about that, about how to do that.
okay.
Okay. Maybe after the second forum, I don't know, we'll figure that out there.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is the report on the alternative programs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
While she's getting that loaded up, I'll start. A couple years back, the Wareham Cooperative School, as it was known, closed its doors, and we had a tough scenario where kids that have been in the program for many years were going to be pushed back into the high school in a setting that they really weren't used to. And we were fortunate enough to create a school within a school at the high school, which allowed for those students to have a teacher, to have a location, and have support they needed in the high school. So I know I sent you a slideshow on a presentation on the location of the class. The grades that are currently enrolled in the program are grades 9 through 12. We have actually 9 students now enrolled in the program and 1 teacher who is a special ed teacher that teaches multiple classes, multiple sections, and does a wonderful job. And she was very excited when I told her that I'd be here presenting on the cooperative program. She was actually in the cooperative program when it was in the McDuffie Annex for many years. And she's very proud of the program, and she's really proud of the students. She's got quite a few students that are now upperclassmen that are doing very well. And I think you saw the spreadsheet that I'll go over on the electives and how well they do even when they take classes in the high school, because all of the students have to take classes in the high school because I'm obligated to give that teacher a prep period every day. So they do have to take classes in the high school, and they do quite well in those classes. But they really need the support that's provided inside the school, within the school. This year, because of the 8th graders coming over, we had to relocate the classroom, which, as you know, some kids just don't respond well to change, and these kids did an awesome job of moving their classroom into another classroom, and it's been really a great transition for them. As you saw in the spreadsheet, the courses that we offer every English course, that core course that's offered at the high school. We offer every math course that's offered at the high school. We offer most of the science courses, all the required science courses that are offered at the high school, all of the required history courses. We also have support. Every student that's in the program has to have a core academics class, which provides another layer of support and intervention. And if the students have scores that are below passing in MCAS based on either their 8th grade or obviously 10th grade, we do place them in core classes, whether it be English or math. Students can enroll, as I mentioned, we have 61 electives, so all the elective field is wide open. And because they are enrolled students, they do get preferential seating or spots, I should say, in the class. As required by Mass State law, all students take a physical education class. This is taught by Wareham High School, the physical education staff. All students have all the access to counselors, staff, nurse, administration, as would any student in the high school. And they participate in sports and are involved in clubs and do quite well. As you saw, they took combined 14 electives, and there were only 4 that failed an elective last year. So out of 14 electives, out of 18 electives, 14 were passed and 4 were failing scores. Most of the failing scores were based on attendance. So I do have some notes from Ashlyn Weintraub, who is the teacher, and I mean, think about it, how much content knowledge she has with the fact that she's teaching from 4 content areas. Most teachers teach out of 1 content area, so we're blessed to have her. She's a special ed teacher as well, and she's strong in all 4 content areas. And when we moved the program over from the co-op, we felt it was so important to get someone that was strong but could also help out with that transition, because the transition wasn't easy for many of those students. And she is very excited that her first graduating class, she will have 100% of her students that came in as freshmen will be graduating as seniors this year. So, I mean, that right there is remarkable. She states this is massive improvements over the past few years. It's very rare to have 100% of your students graduate an alternative program. People compliment her all the time on how nice and polite the students are. My first year there, they didn't make those comments. I think the alternative graduation requirements are the strength of the program. Students can transition, whether they transition back into the high school, or we do sometimes have students that have to transition to the program, so it allows for some flexibility there. The attendance, she's seen drastic improvement in the attendance since it was moved into the high school. Students in the past ended up, when they dropped out, they were lucky if they could get a GED or find a place to take the GED. And she's just really excited about the programs and the fact that the students have elective options, because before everything was prescribed for them. And she said another strength having the co-op is for the kids who are regular ed but are very needy in terms of emotional support. There's not another place for them. So if they don't have an IEP without this program, we wouldn't have a place for those students. So again, we're very blessed to have the program, and she's very excited about the future of the program and very excited for the students that are now role models. So unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, but she was very appreciative of the fact that we were recognizing the co-op program and doing a presentation tonight. Be glad to answer any questions you may have for the co-op at the Wareham High School. Please.
I guess I'll start. So what is the total capacity that you can have in the co-op?
We could have 12 kids in the program.
Okay, used to be 30, okay.
And it used to have a lot more staff and administration and secretarial support.
Mm-hmm. Then the next question is, out of the 8 students, what are their grade levels?
I know the majority of them are juniors and seniors, but I'd have to look that up to give you the exact breakdown. But it's definitely higher on the upperclassmen side.
So I am curious, I mean, it's wonderful that they're being polite and that they're doing well, so why wouldn't we try to move them out into the mainstream?
We have. We, as you said, it used to be 30 students. We've moved many students out in the mainstream. These are the students that are still in the program that still need that level of support, that still need that structure. And then there's other students that move into town that come in from alternative programs that we want to use it as kind of a step down to, they come into from a school that might have 20 kids. You throw them into a school with 625, they're going to get lost. So this is a nice program to have as a transition to eventually getting them in the high school. Ultimately, that is the goal. But for some, it may not be attainable, and this is a great program to.
Right, it just sounded like the ones that are there currently seem to be doing very well.
And a tribute to Aislinn Weintraub and the work that she's done, but also we got to give credit to the students. You know, they're there every day, they're working hard, they're behaving, they're very involved, and you know, and sometimes when, you know, that you're in that school of 30, you're a big fish, you know, in a small pond. They're in a big pond over there. So, you know, there's a little bit more, I think there's a little more pressure on them to do what they need to do.
Okay, so how many do you think total you've had in that class since they moved to the high school?
My estimate will be close to 24.
And how many do you think have been successful?
I'd say the majority have been successful. They're either enrolled full-time in the high school, some, as you're going to hear in a few minutes, matriculate into the PASS program, and there's very few statistics, and I think it's a tribute to both programs, and I'm a big supporter of the PASS program as well.
Right, and this is the first year that you will have day students that are graduating from high school, is that correct?
We had some last year,
You did?
yes.
Do you know how many?
I believe it was 1 or 2.
Okay.
It wasn't a lot, but this will be, yes, to answer your question, this will be our largest group.
Yeah, that are graduating.
And that's, I mean, we're excited about that.
Good. And are you going to be accepting 8th graders since they're now over at the high school?
We could. I'm concerned with the various levels of
Yeah.
courses to throw 4 more, you know, courses at that
Yeah,
8th
it's a
grade level.
lot.
But it could be done if needed.
Does she at least have a para in the room with her?
Nothing.
Okay. And my other question was, does she teach all that? And you answered that already. And then when you said that the number of WHS electives passed were 14, that just means that, for example, the 8 students, they took so many electives, it doesn't mean 14 students, right?
Right. And most of them took multiple, but not all.
Okay. And then my last question is, will there be a school improvement plan presented to us?
I would assume there'll be a joint school improvement plan.
Okay, all right. Are you the principal, by the way, of the co-op?
Actually, Jane's the principal.
That's
She
what I
does an
thought.
awesome job.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So for the PASS program, it says full-time students who are residents of Wareham attend for free. Do we have?
I think, I don't want to steal from Jane's
Oh,
thunder. She's
sorry.
going to present on so I'm just doing the co-op in the,
Okay.
inside the
Sorry.
high school.
I got ahead of myself. I like to read forward.
Yep. Are you good?
Well, I'm sorry, I had some more questions about the co-op. I'm curious how the students get referred to that program.
Sure. So there's, most of the students that are in there were in there when it was over here at 3
Okay.
Viking Drive. But students could be referred through guidance. As a matter of fact, I mentioned there was one more student added. If a student who doesn't have an IEP is struggling, we'll have a team meeting with the guidance counselors, the parents, Ms. Weintraub, and talk about, you know, if that's an option.
Okay.
So it's through guidance. The referral process will be through guidance, through a team meeting.
Okay. And as far as integrating out, that's an option for all of them, just depending on,
We try and push all this, well, they all take electives out, which, you know, trying to step down into the high school. That's kind of the first step is to, you know, as I mentioned, because of the contract, we have to get them out for one period. But some students are out for multiple periods. It's not just one. We have some students that are in there for half the time and in the high school for the other half. We have one student this year who's taken his English and all of his electives out, but he's in there for math, history, science. So it's really, it's individualized, and it's really based on the student's need, what they need. There's meetings with guidance that determines, you know, what is the student ready for. And then it's not very often, but if we get in over our head, we're able to retract back and put them back into the co-op for maybe the one class that they're in over their head. So there's a lot of flexibility with that program.
okay. And so they moved to P4, does that mean they're in the portables?
Correct.
So is that not isolating? Or are
There's
they
3
not
other
alone out
classrooms in there.
Okay.
And the kids love it because that's one of the only areas in the building that has air conditioning. So, you know, those real hot days.
Yeah.
It was
all
still
right.
hot there, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as hot.
Okay.
So they enjoy that area, and it's a large classroom. It's one of the largest classrooms we have, so they are able to spread out and work in different groups.
And discipline, do you see a change?
I think, discipline's always an issue in an alternative setting, but, comparatively speaking, not a lot of discipline coming out of there. Aislinn does an awesome job of dealing with what she has to deal with in-house. Obviously, there's only so much a teacher can do. Sometimes it does come out, but it's not, it's not a big issue.
No. Okay. All right. Rebecca, did you? Oh. Go ahead.
All right, so Joyce had one of my questions about how they get referred. And now, so there's 8 kids in the...
Nine now.
Nine. So all of those 9 kids they wouldn't be there unless a parent said it was okay.
Oh, right, definitely.
Yeah.
That's part of the process.
That's what I was hoping,
Right.
and thought it was what I thought. But they don't have IEPs.
Most don't.
Most don't, okay.
Right, because if they have IEPs, there's other options and other services in place.
All right, so it's always confusing whenever, to me anyway, whenever we're discussing this. You got the Wareham Co-op, we got the PASS, we got stuff. And it's like, so for these 9 kids, are you the principal?
Jane's the principal.
Then why are you doing this whole presentation? Like, why are we talking, like, should we be...
We'll collaborate with the day school part of it.
The day, but that's the 9 kids, right?
She's going to present a lot. There's a lot more kids going to be presented in a few minutes, and they're in the PASS program.
All right, so but the PASS program, is that part of the co-op?
It's all one school.
It's all right, so the...
One school ID.
Okay, but then, all right, so you got Wareham Cooperative, right, high school. And then on the last page, I think it's like Wareham Cooperative Junior Senior High School. Like what?
That's what the official title was, yeah.
Wareham, okay, Wareham Cooperative School. Not,
Alternative school.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, so you had mentioned this one teacher, and I read one teacher, and then I saw all these courses, and I'm like, I added them all up, and it was like 14, and it was like, it's a lot of courses. But now, for one teacher, and I guess she does it remarkably well. Now, do these kids, when they graduate, in order to graduate, do they have to pass MCAS?
Everyone has to pass MCAS.
That's what I thought.
It's
So
a state law. There's no wiggle room on
well,
that.
it's special, but it's not. They don't get a break on that.
No one does.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Also, something that I was kind of curious about, like, why is there a separate graduation ceremony for this group?
There's separate requirements. So there's a separate graduation because it's different requirements.
Okay. And on their diploma, it'll say what?
Wareham Cooperative.
All right. And so I read ahead on the PASS stuff, and that the kids that graduate from PASS, it'll actually say Wareham High School?
No, same.
Oh, okay. It is under. Okay, gotcha.
It's one ID, one school.
All right, gotcha. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
Do you have a program or a way to measure their success after they graduate?
Well, we're required to document the post-graduation plans, and now in I believe it's our 3rd year in Naviance now? 2nd year? 3rd year? I think it's 3rd year in Naviance now. We have all the students' information in Naviance, and this is an online program that allows us to track our graduates. So we have 3 years worth of students that are in the program. It also helps out with college searches. They can apply online. Everything's electronic. Transcripts can be sent. The student can control everything. So there's a good tracking mechanism now for our students.
I'd be interested at some point in the future to kind of see how they're doing. I think
Sure.
that would be a huge success story.
We get calls all the time from kids that have graduated, and it's amazing some of the things they're doing. And I'm talking from the alternative school. Thank you.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
That I just thought of, because I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Palladino, but I thought I heard you say that the majority of the 8 students came from the original
Correct.
location.
Correct.
So what happened to, because I think there were almost 30 students in that program, what happened to the other 20?
I believe there were quite a few that graduated before we closed it, and then I think that was part of the deciding factor, was that it was senior heavy. So there was a lot that graduated, and I believe there were 12 left
There were no seniors in the day program. The day program only had 9th and 10th graders, and the night school took the rest.
Well, there were 12 left when we brought them over to the high
Okay.
school, and 8 stayed.
Maybe they got
I can't speak to, I was under the
No.
impression that the majority graduated, but I can only tell you, when we made the decision, there were 12 students,
Okay.
and Dr. Shaverhood asked me to call all 12 of them to talk about the program at the high school, because, you know, some were on the edge.
Right.
The parents were kind of uneasy about, you know, they've been in a small school, and now we're going to throw them in a big school with like 500 kids. And so we spoke to everyone personally. Jane spoke to everyone personally. We met with some of the parents, gave them tours of the school, and there were 10 that took us up on the program. 2 went to night school, and I believe they both graduated from the night school program. But I'm not sure, you know, beyond the 12 that were identified. I was under the impression the rest did graduate from the night school program.
All right. And you didn't have any new referrals? I mean, you say you have a 9th now, but you didn't have any?
We had 1 referral so far this year.
Yeah,
There's another one that they're meeting on. So, you know, the number it's a moving number. I could come back in 2 months and we could be at 12.
right.
But, you know, the goal is to do what's best for each student individually. So, you know, getting them back into the high school at some point is a goal for some. It's unrealistic for others. And maybe doing a kind of a hybrid is realistic for others. So it's really about the student, the individual, and there's no right or wrong way to do it as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
It's all about what's best for the student.
right, thank you.
I had one more.
Sure.
All right, I think when Mrs. Morgan asked about the 30 earlier, and, you know, they used to have 30, now you've got less, and you were saying, yeah, you had more resources back then. I infer from that if you had more resources now, there'd be more kids in there now. Are the resources restricting the number of kids that should be in that program but can't get in it?
No, because we're not at max. I said I could take 12, and, you know, they're not banging down our door to get in there. It's nice to have a few extra seats to be able to move some kids in there. But, you know, no, it's not really an issue yet.
Okay.
I hope it's not, because that would be frustrating as a principal if you didn't have that resource for kids that needed it, because it's dropout prevention.
Yeah, exactly. And I also inferred that it would kind of be stressing out what you have now if you brought the 8th grade in.
I think it would be stressing the teacher out, quite frankly,
But-
because, I mean, remember, she has to
No,
meet
right.
with all those department heads for all those areas to make sure her curriculum is aligned to our curriculum.
Right. No, I
so you know what I'm
get it. I
saying?
get it. But as a school committee, we need to make sure these kids are getting what they need. So do you need more resources to get 8th grade in there?
If I had 8th graders that needed to be in there, I probably would need more resources.
So you're saying you have no 8th graders that could benefit from this program?
Well, let me put it this way. We met yesterday with our student success team, and there are some 8th graders that we do have some concern. Not as many as I thought, and so I'm pleasantly surprised by that. But it's still early. We're only halfway through the first term. But, you know, down the road, could we need some more support? Sure. Could we use a para in there down the road? Absolutely. But I'm happy with what we have right now,
Okay.
and the program's very successful. But Dr. Shaverhood knows I'm not shy. I'll call her and let her know if we need more support.
Okay.
So trust me, there's nothing to worry there. I will advocate for every student to the point of insubordination.
All right, thank you. And to borrow a phrase you always say, that's a good problem to have.
It is. Right now it is.
No, the advocating, you know.
Sometimes people get sick of hearing from me, but, you know, we got to do what's best for the students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the alternative pathway, which is part of the Wareham Cooperative Alternative School, is the past night school diploma program. Is the past night school diploma program. It's Pathways to Academic Student Success. So the program descriptions. PASS is a night school program of studies for students who wish to complete their high school education and receive a full high school diploma from the Wareham Public Schools. Students who choose to enroll in the PASS program do so because they are committed to their education. The following requirements are needed for graduation. So in the night school program, as we said, is a little different than the day school program, and that's why there is a separate graduation ceremony. They have to have their 4 English courses, their 4 mathematics courses, 3 science courses, 3 social science courses, 1 wellness course. We also have online courses that are available for certain subjects, and they have to pass the ELA, math, and science MCAS. So currently, when I made this slide, we had 53 students enrolled. We started September 10th, and 20% were school choice, but our past secretary has been out on medical, so she came back this week, so we updated it. So actually, 38% of the 53 are school choice right now. So Monday evenings, we have US History 2, Algebra 1 and 2, English 9 and 10, Environmental Science, and US History 1. On Tuesday evenings, there's Biology, Consumer Math, English 11, Engineering, and Sociology. On Wednesday evenings, there's World History, English 12, Health and Wellness, and Geometry. So the past program was for the last 2 years over at the middle school. We had the wing, and now at the 3rd and 4th, our new home now is here at 48 Marion Road. So these are some pictures. This is a world history class in our new location. We have a college and career readiness area for the students. They have to take their health and wellness class. We have a security staff member and our coordinator, Mr. Joseph Marcus, who is sitting out there, and geometry class, and a sample of the English class. We also provide dinner at 4 o'clock for the students if they chose to come early to eat. So college and career readiness is really a strong focus, and our goals for 2018-19 for the past night school program is we're going to be partnering with the New Bedford Workforce and Bristol Community College. We want to pilot 2 certification courses. We're looking at computer programming and computer cyberbullying. We're targeting a start date of January. The courses are typically 15 to 16 weeks, 2.5 to 3 hours, 1 night per week. And that concludes it. Questions?
Do you want to start this time? All right, so just correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard you say in the when you first started that the night school students have a different criteria for graduating than the day ones?
It's less, a night school program is less credits because the concentration is on the core academics. There's less electives. Not that they don't graduate with, some of them with the same amount of credits, because if they transfer into the night school program after their sophomore year, some of them have accumulated more credits than what they would actually need, but they don't have the core. They haven't passed the ELAs, the math, the sciences.
But just to clarify, the students in the day co-op program don't have the same criteria as the students in your regular high school program, is that correct? Okay.
And as Jane said, you know, it's all about the electives. It's just
Right.
the transcript's going to look a little different because of the electives.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, do you still offer support for special ed students?
Yes.
So what time does that happen? Or
Well,
when does it happen? Do you have a special ed teacher on staff?
Yes, and it's inclusive. So, and the good news is that we found out that we are eligible to apply for a $20,000 for the 320 Mass grad has come out again, but it is strictly for the Wareham Cooperative Alternative School. So we're looking at starting next week and talking with Scott and some other people on how we're going to write that and where we're going to want to put those resources.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, sure. All right, so I didn't know we were going to get rid of the presentation, but
I'm sorry.
But maybe I'm sure you do.
Get it? Yep.
I'm sure you do it by memory. But so the schedule, right? Like so for example, on Tuesday nights you've got biology, consumer math, English 11, engineering, and sociology. So if I was like a 9th grade student in this thing, like what would I be doing during the English 11?
Well, we really only have one 9th grader. You have to be 16 to 21 to be in the program. So let me just pull it up. So on Monday nights, if a student comes into us, we sit down and we look at their transcripts to determine how many maths they've had, how many sciences, how many Englishes. So depending on what their needs are each night, so on Monday night, they could be taking an environmental science class.
Okay.
And it could have sophomores and juniors in the class. It's
okay.
not just made for juniors or just for sophomores.
All right, so I'm getting the two mixed up then. So there's not one teacher doing this.
No, so on Monday nights, we have 5 teachers.
Okay, that's where I was
Right.
confused.
Oh, yeah,
So
no, it's
there's
not
more
like-
than one teacher, okay.
Yes, yes. Sorry.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. All right. Also, the calendar was interesting to me. There's like no free ride here. You know, there's no. I mean, if the school's closed on one day, you're making it up on Thursday.
You have to meet the hours.
I mean, it's like intense. You know, so I mean, is there even a vacation like the school
Well, they get the same Christmas break and then the February vacation and
Oh,
April
they do.
vacation,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
This is just taking you just to January.
Yeah, but there's there's no 5 days built in like we do with the regular school, right?
This is accelerated because
Yeah.
it's just
So that's there's no real snow days.
no. And then no, exactly. We make it up. And then with the certification program that we'd like to pilot in January, we would use that Thursday night for that to
Yeah.
take place.
Yeah.
Yep.
All set, yeah.
Anyone else, Laurie?
Yeah, question. Do these children seek you out for this? Is this something that you identify? I mean, GED versus this. Is this something that they come dangerously close in school to maybe not doing well, and then you seek them out to finish this way?
So the
How
way
does it?
so the way it works during the day school, if there's a student who is struggling, they meet with the guidance counselors at the high school. There's team meetings. They meet with the parents. They do everything possible for that student to stay as a full-time day school student. But for our students, some of the cases, it's just not going to work. So then we collaborate, we meet together, and then that child is transferred over to the night school program. And then the school choice, they come to us because there aren't many night school diploma programs, and they want that diploma. So we send out brochures to the area schools, guidance counselors to get the information out.
So you said it was about 38%. So that's what, 20?
About 20 students
20
right
kids,
now.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Is there room for more for school choice if we had it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've had as high as 65, 66 students. So, yeah, we could take more.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
The students that are coming in from out of district, are we receiving funds from those districts because they're attending your cooperative program?
Yes. So school choice. So if they come and they do full-time is considered that you do all 3 nights, then that district pays for that student to come to the night school program. And we have some school choice students that just need to take 1 class, so they have to pay for that themselves. As well as we have some high school students that maybe need to take Algebra 1 so that they can graduate. They'll come nights and take that class, and they pay for that, the families.
What happens if they can't afford to pay?
For the 1 class or payment plan. You know, they put a down payment and then they pay a little bit as they go through.
The partnerships that you spoke of, are they coming here? Instructors are coming here, the students aren't going?
Right, so the partnership with the certification course, the New Bedford Workforce received a grant. And so the instructor will come to us here to teach that program.
Okay.
So that's being funded through them. Yep.
Okay. I was fortunate enough to be at the graduation last year, and it really, like, the sense of pride that is there is
For both the student and the
amazing.
families, they're very,
Yes.
very, very happy and appreciative
Yes.
of the
Yes,
second
I'm so
chance.
glad
that
to
they-
be there,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No,
Oh, sorry, Mike.
just no. I too have heard glowing things from parents. Parents love this program for sure. The past program, they speak highly of it, and it's a second chance.
Right.
You know, it's great. I mean, is it appealing at all for the day co-op kids to just decide to just opt in to pass?
I don't think so. We try to do everything we can for them to stay, because we want them to stay. But our kids, a lot of our kids, there's many reasons why they choose this pathway. Financial, medical. So it's what the needs of the family are. But most families want their child to stay at the high school during the day, but sometimes that just isn't going to be the case.
Okay.
And to your point, that's always my concern. They look at this and say, is this an easier way out? But really, Jane does an awesome job with her staff of meeting with us and filtering this through. It's really, for the high school, for Wareham High School, it's really dropout prevention.
And so in past, do you still need, does a parent still need to sign on to that? Or they do, really?
Oh, yes.
What's the max age on that?
If they're in the high school, the parent has to be involved.
No, but is there I think it's higher than high school age.
Well, the night school, 21.
That's what I mean. So,
Right.
so if I'm 20, I don't need a parent's
No.
permission, right? So.
But if they're enrolled at Wareham High School and they're going to opt out.
In order to.
Oh, I'm beyond that other question, that's all. But in general, if I'm, 19, I can just.
Yeah, we've had students that come back after like 20 years old and they've got a couple of courses or they need to take the MCAS in order to
Yeah.
get that diploma.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say how very much I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I've been really impressed over the last several weeks. I was at one of your registrations, and I just have to say it's a phenomenal program, and this is really giving a lot of kids who wouldn't have an option to get a diploma a way to succeed. And it's not just a sheet of paper. In this day and age, employers, as well as the military, they want a diploma. And this program, there's nothing like it around here. And I think this is just another thing that we can really be proud of what Wareham is doing. And I guarantee you, when we're having this conversation next year, you're gonna have even higher numbers from out of district, because there is nothing like this nearby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So this year at Wareham Middle School and at Minot, actually, we were able to begin a program for grades 4 through 7. We call it the RISE Wellness Program. We invited our students to come tonight, but instead they decided they wanted to make a video because they were too nervous to present in front of everyone. So we'd like to show the video and then answer some questions about a program that we have. Currently, we have 4 7th graders in the program.
I'm gonna hope it finishes
Please.
loading. They took a lot of time.
I am from a big crowded city to Boston, West and New Orleans. I am from tall buildings to busy streets, bridges, and noisy cars. I am from sugar canes growing in the backyard. I am from fireworks and Spanish tongue, from parents to aunts and uncles. I am from trips to Puerto Rico and sunsets at the beach. I am from I love you, and before you leave, lock up the house. I am from a belief of God, amen, hallelujah. I am from Bayamon and San Juan to Spanish rice and red beans. I am from many journeys back and forth to America. I am from arguments with my brothers to Boston, family photos, and the Bible that is the foundation of our faith.
Research states a good educational experience for children begins with building positive relationships. The Relational Intentional Student Engagement Program, RISE in short, aims to do that through projects, goal setting, and modeling of the 5 social-emotional competencies that are an evidence-based integral part of education as researched by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. The root of the program looks to provide holistic support that builds confidence, transfers concepts from experiential learning to real-world application. RISE looks to understand the diverse needs of each student and using their best qualities to encourage self-awareness, responsible decision-makings, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-management. What is your goal?
To learn how to juggle.
Okay, and what's your score for the scarves so far?
15.
Okay, so you give a try.
Huh?
Give it a try.
Wait, better.
Four, 5. All right. So working toward improving the goal. James, what's your goal on the board that you've achieved?
I got 13.
13. So let's see if we can beat 13. Well, that's not a good attitude. If you lead with probably not, do you think you're going to be successful? No, that's going to be really, really difficult. And Taj, you've done a bunch of scarves. You worked your way up to a big number with the scarves, but now you're working for tennis balls. You've changed over to go a little bit more difficult. So how many do you have with the tennis balls? 7. So let's see what you can do. So close. So how long have you been trying to juggle?
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks. And have you seen improvement?
I think so.
You have. So for scarves, yes. So that's why you moved on to the harder thing. So,
Getting recorded, I did that.
that's okay. It's the pressure of being recorded. But how do you feel about your accomplishment?
I mean, I've only been doing this for like 3 weeks, I think. I already got 110.
Right?
So I think that's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good too.
But I feel like since I got 100% in 3 weeks, like throughout the whole year, I can probably get like around 500.
Do you think you can transfer that to anything else? Can you transfer that, what you did with juggling, how you learned juggling, is that transferable to anything else?
Like school-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what?
Like math.
Like math?
Yeah.
How with math?
Because like if you just like keep on doing it, you'll eventually get good at it.
So are you applying that to math at all?
I mean, yeah. Kind of. Hey guys, and today we're going to show you how to use Google Keeps. It's like a online agenda.
I like the RISE program because I feel like I'll keep my grades on point with A's and B's.
I think our Wareham RISE program helps us with our self-management and our goals.
The RISE program is very important to me because it's one of the main reasons why I like going to school this year.
Working to reach goals, creating online tutorials, talking to soldiers in Kuwait, making connections with students globally, using online curriculum software, and exploring real-world problems with the intent to find solutions is the educational focus of the RISE program. But using a holistic approach, we aim to first grow a love for school and behaviors that seek guidance.
You have to be able to accept failure to get better. Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Good, better, best, never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best.
So that's just a little snippet of Ms. Dahmer's RISE program. It's new to us. We're trying to instill in our students that they can achieve. Behaviorally, academically, they can grow. The majority of the students are there only part-time. They still are integrated into math, ELA, science, unified arts classes. Some go to Ms. Dahmer for a period, some go for 2 periods a day, and we've seen much success so far with these students.
Questions? Lauren?
So how are these children identified, and how many do you have?
So currently, there's only 4 7th graders.
Okay.
We identified them this summer when we found out that we had funding to support the program. They were identified by data that we collected last year, that the students needed a little bit more of an alternative program that's discussed with, similar to the high school program, and we needed that at the earlier ages.
And is that the amount is for your max?
No, not at all, no. And we're using a similar process to the high school. We have support team meetings that when students are brought up, we're saying, should the student be suggested for the RISE program? There's a couple of students right now that we're thinking about, and we'll see what happens.
I hate this thing. Is there certain criteria? I mean, is there certain things you're looking for?
So there is certain criteria. Some are attendance, some are referrals that we've had, some are academics. Are they being successful in a traditional classroom? Are they not being successful in a traditional classroom?
So what grade levels is this offered to?
4 through 7.
How does it work with fourth graders when they're on a different schedule?
So we haven't had a fourth grader yet,
Okay.
so it hasn't come up.
All right.
But we're going to be flexible in what we do. We also have a counselor that's working with the program. We have a paraprofessional that can go into the program also. So when that comes up, we'll see.
And you haven't had any fifth, sixth, or eighth, no, you don't have eighth, referrals?
No, not at all yet, no.
We've been in school for a little over a month, I think. How do you measure success at this point?
I think I measure success by what they're telling me. Myself, the assistant principal that's in charge of the program, we're in there daily. The students consider their teacher their school mother. I haven't had one referral from any of the students inside of school. We have had a few bus incidences that we're working through. I had a student from the program today come see me. He asked to come see me, and he advocated for himself. He said, "Someone's really bugging me. Can you help me out?" And I said, "Sure." So that wouldn't have happened last year.
Okay.
So I believe I'm measuring that with success. As I said, all of these students are included in our regular classes, and Ms. Stommer checks grades with them. I believe that academically.
Yes, academically, they're all passing. I think our lowest grade is a C+, I think, as of last check. And they're striving to get A's and B's. I mean, they would really love to get all A's.
Yeah.
You know, they're really working hard. And I think when you were asking how we measure, for me, when they were making these videos, and these came from them, I had the camera, but, asked them certain questions, but I didn't know what they were gonna say. And when I hear a student say that I now like coming to school, I think that's measurable in my book. And so I think we need to, for certain students, make them realize that they can love coming to school, and then we can slowly integrate them back into the other things. Just from this process, we have one student now that he wants to play an instrument. He wants to try stuff. And also someone who was very shy, who wouldn't speak on camera, but would do a voice over on the movie. So I think the growth is just those baby steps that we get them to see that school isn't a bad place, and it actually can be the place where they find their success if they just come.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. All my questions have been asked, but just thank you. It sounds like a great program, and we're really lucky to have it at the middle school. Thank you. So next on the agenda is Red Ribbon Week. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Deanna Semple. I'm the physical education teacher at Deaconess Elementary. And over the past few years, our community has lost countless lives as a result of drugs. It is my hope to provide young people with as many healthy options as possible in an effort to sway them from making bad and sometimes deadly choices. So Red Ribbon Awareness Week is a national campaign to unite people and communities to make a visible stand against drugs. And it was started when drug traffickers in Mexico City murdered a DEA agent in 1985. This began the tradition of displaying red ribbons as a symbol of intolerance toward the use of drugs. The National Family Partnership is the sponsor of the National Red Ribbon Week celebration, helping citizens across the country come together to keep children, families, and communities safe, healthy, and drug-free through parent training, networking, and sponsoring the National Red Ribbon campaign. So 3 years ago, I decided to have a family and community night to showcase all that our community and communities that surround Wareham have to offer. And this night was made possible in part from the funding and the support of the superintendent. The theme I used for that year was, I've got better things to do than drugs. And so organizations such as Boy Scouts, the Onset Bay Association, the Old Colony Young Marines had tables with information about getting involved in their organizations. We invited local youth sports, the Tigers, the JBA, as well as martial arts schools and dance schools, the YMCA, and they also offered demonstrations to showcase their offerings. In addition, there were various groups present with information on awareness and treatments. Over 60 organizations I reach out to, and we've had a good turnout. Family entertainment vendors like Edaville Railroad and Ryan's Family Amusement, Carabiners, Whaling Museum, the Zeitarian, to name a few. They come with the calendars of their events and discounts. There were pottery places, music studios, and even a virtual reality demonstrator from Cape Cod Collectibles present, so that was cool. They all came to prove that Wareham has a great deal to offer young people, and that there are many choices for families and adolescents to get involved in to keep them off drugs. And so I'm hoping for the school committee's support for this third annual Red Ribbon Family and Community Night, which will be held Tuesday, October 23rd at the Deacon's Elementary School from 5 to 7 p.m. Please help me support Wareham children by supporting this worthwhile event. Flyers will be hung in businesses, and I'm hoping to get some advertising through our local cable channel and the newspapers. And thank you for your support for the children of Wareham.
Thank you. I attended last year, and I'm happy to support in any way. Just let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have some giveaways that I order red ribbon bracelets that we give to everybody who comes in. In the past, we have had food. I think probably drinks. It's kind of at dinner time, so we, you don't have to stay that 2 hours. You kind of go through and visit. But yeah, I'd love donations of waters. That would be a great help.
Desserts, cookies, things like that.
Yeah, that would be. We could put them at a table. They could try. They could help themselves. You're a baker.
I'm a district coordinator for Panera Bread, so
Wow.
we would love to donate whatever needs to be donated.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. Thank you. And so, can I count on seeing you guys there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When is it again?
It's Tuesday, October 23rd.
Okay.
Day after town meeting.
Yeah, hopefully town meeting goes
Yeah,
one day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we might have to.
Is there any other help needed from us for it besides awareness?
Just, I guess, keep the topic going. If word of mouth can, some people might see red ribbon, what is that? And then, you might have a conversation about what it is. And I just feel like the more recognition it gets, the more people we can reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of work, and so we're very appreciative that you've taken this under your wing to make it the third one, because it's a very, very nice event for our community. So thank you.
Yes, it is. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now is the update on MCAS.
So it's kind of strange that I'm, let me see if I can move that a little. Prior to the MCAS presentation, and in preparation for the Wareham Public Schools Strategic and School Improvement presentation on October 25th, Dr. Shaverhood suggested that we provide you with the report, which is 79 pages, ahead of time, so that you would have time to review the myriad of information, examine the strategic plan, WPS 2021, as none of you were school committee members when the plan was approved in April of 2016. The people that were part of that committee were also, many of them were part of the strategic planning, or the initial beginning of that plan. And so there's information in this report to help you see where we were and where we were going. Look closely at the principles and the elements of the plan, guiding the district forward, and examine and look at the practices and responses to the elements that the faculty give every year. We have 2 years now of data where we take the strategic plan and formulate it into a rubric and send it out to the faculty with identified elements and language around each of the subsequent rubrics, so that we can make it be alive and not be on a shelf collecting dust. And we hear back from the faculty on where they think they are, and there are 3 stages in the rubric. It's a planning, building, and transforming, and the goal is to move toward transforming in all of the identified elements. And those then relate back to the vision. We have a lot of data, and then the goals that were chosen by each school from last year and the results of those goals. And we would also like it, if you do read it, and if you have any questions ahead of time, that we would be happy to answer any of those questions. If you need some assistance, I've tried to make this report as user-friendly as possible. It's been in creation since around July. Principals and teams have met, administrators, we've met with all school councils, and so it's been a very busy and continuously edited piece of work from all of the voices that could be collected. So I'm going to hand that out first. And I also want to let you know that this presentation is an overview of MCAS and some detail and some information that I've learned over this week. And each school is identified in the table of contents, and Minot, the middle, and the high school, there are charts, detailed charts of the MCAS data that's in here. So I thought it would be helpful if you had that, if you needed any more information for tonight.
Thank you. So before you start your presentation, I just want to say thank you for this. It's really helpful to get this ahead of time and have 3 weeks, and to be able to ask questions ahead of time. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we were very concerned because there's a wealth of information, and even have it a week ahead, it just seems a lot to take in, because it's full, and the goal is really to be as transparent as possible and collect as much information from stakeholders as we can, and then make decisions that will obviously help us get further to the vision. I'm grateful we could pull it off. So these are the 2018 MCAS results, an overview of those results. And I think that this is a very important point to bring forth. One test, one day does not measure every student every day. And every student every day is our motto at Wareham Public Schools. The test is new. The data considers many different variables than it used to consider. And although difficult to do,
We are not to look at the first we are to look only at the first 2 years when we look at the next generation MCAS from grades 3 to 8. So that's a shift, right, a shift. Now, I've given data for 2015, 16, 17, and 18 for all of the schools in your packet, but we have to be careful to keep that as, it's almost as though they're two completely different tests, right? It's not easy for us because we've been in this role for a long time. That's not the same for the legacy MCAS for the scores. However, the way that they chose to measure it this year is different. The indicators that they chose to measure within those scores is different than it has been in the past. They're getting prepared for the indicators that will be measured for the next generation MCAS at the high school. So we're all learning about these new indicators and about how to look at this data and assess it properly and gather the information that we need. And here in Wareham, we use it really for formative purposes rather than summative purposes. There's a big difference. We look at the data to figure out what we need to do to inform our instruction in a way that we can help our kids be successful, not only on this test, but hopefully in their lives. I'd also like to ask that prior to making judgments about anyone after one test, we need to look at the whole child. And in my opinion, the creation of this test and ed reform has not helped our students in many ways. So I come to this with eyes wide open, with a very, very acute knowledge of the data. I look very closely at the data. I understand the data, but it also needs to be kept in the right perspective. So the challenge is that DESE released the 2018 accountability results on September 26th to be shared with the press on September 27th. The school committee is due information for presentations on September 27th. So if we received the accountability reports on the 26th, it was impossible to come up with a plan and to be able to get that information out to you in the depth of level that we would have liked to between the 26th and the 27th, and it was public. And so it was put us in a little bit of a bind. So initially we thought we would just do an overview, knowing that I had the more detailed results already for you in this report that I knew would be public by the time we had this meeting. And because of the schedule this year, there isn't one in between now and the 25th. Mm-hmm. So that was a challenge. What we learned about our results is that they were better than we have seen across all schools in a very long time. Although recognizing we have a lot of work to do, we believe the directions we are heading is on solid platform. On September 30th, various media compared the Wareham Public Schools with all other schools in the state. And for this to be statistically significant, all other variables would need to be the same. We do not compare ourselves with other schools in the state, we compare ourselves with ourselves. And that makes sense because the variables, then some of them, we can control. And then we can see, have we made these targets that have been set for us, statistically set by the Department of Ed? And so the information that we received was phenomenal, and we were actually celebrating. And then the press came out and actually said something the opposite of what we know to be true. So I'll go over that a little bit so that that can be understood. To no one's fault. I think it's just that there's a level of understanding, because we've lived with this for a very long time, that we have, that oftentimes when people do a cursory look, they don't necessarily have the depth of understanding. So interestingly, the state uses the same chart to describe two sets of data. As I dug into this, I found this to be very fascinating. I thought I would share this with you. The high school, for example, exceeded and met expectations in all subjects. The state then transfers the school data to district data using the same table, labels, and information. The difference is in the N, which is the number of students. And the state's response when questioned was that the school report only includes students who were enrolled as of October 1st, but the district report includes any student who was enrolled in the district at the time of testing, and the district report also includes outplacements, but the school report does not. So the school was awarded 21 points, for example, for their achievement in English. The state awarded us 3 points. In math, the school was awarded 19 points for their achievement, and the state awarded us 14. And here's the example of these tables. These are screenshots that were taken exactly from those tables. Now, when Wareham High School looks at their data, they look at the top detailed report on English. And as you can see, exceeded, 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 exceeded. All the way down in English, they exceeded every single target with the exception of one that they maintained, which is fairly high overall anyway. And the same exact table below with a difference of 20 students shows no change, decline, no change, decline. In math, it's the same. So I think the media, as well as we, were surprised by the two different reactions from the two different sets of data. To learn more about this discrepancy, we've contacted the Accountability Office as well as the Commissioner. And I was told by the Commissioner's Secretary that he would have this information from us today and would be getting back to us. What I do know is that every one of the 100 students or the 99 subsequent students that are listed on the Wareham Public Schools data, that as we are waiting upon the data, every person involved with those students is anxiously awaiting for their results. And those people, the department chairs, system principal, teachers, have worked intimately and know these students really well. And when they're successful, they're joyous. There are tears of happiness as a result of this. So of all of those students, we know and have had, and they're in front of us, every single one of them. We're not sure about the 25. If they're outplacement, we may have never known them. We may have never had them in front of us. They may be outplaced for a number of reasons that we're not aware. And so, in my estimation, it's a bit unfair, particularly with the huge discrepancy in points. A couple of points here and there, okay, we can take that, but to lose 18 points on students that we don't know is a significant number.
I don't know if you want to wait till the end, or should I just ask questions right along, or?
It's up to you.
Just, I guess on this one point, I mean, so the school was awarded 21 points, and that's not represented at all in here?
It's represented on the top chart.
The top
See
chart.
the chart, see the points?
So, all right, when you add them all up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for something that says 21,
No,
but you have
it's,
to add them all. All
how
right.
they do the district accountability is they
Gotcha.
add up all of these points and then you get an overall number as a
Gotcha.
result of that.
Okay.
We didn't get that in the district report.
Okay, gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
I do now, thank you.
So this is where we stand with schools. This is how we look at data. This is the data that we feel is important to us and how we look at our students and we look at our instruction, we think, okay, this is what we can do. So since as far back as 2007, Wareham Public Schools has been designated as either corrective action or level 3 need of technical assistance. Now, we don't need any technical assistance. We are out of that hole, and we are in no need of technical assistance. The achievement scores for grades 3 and 4, English, exceeded and met every target. For math, they exceeded every target. Hence why we were celebrating and surprised by negative press, right?
Right.
Minot Forest's overall progress was 92% meeting target. The middle school, we know we have some work to do. However, the improvements from between last year and this year are marked in many areas. We improved with all, improved with high needs. We met with the African American population and exceeded the multi-race population. Special ed went down a little bit, but not a significant amount, so we feel we're on the right page with them. We've been struggling with providing them the graphic organizers, getting the graphic organizers approved by the Department of Education and using them consistently as we go through has been a little bit difficult, but we're much better now. We know the new system, and it seems to be working. So we're working toward that, and we're excited about these results, and the middle school should be very excited as well. Last year, it did not look as good, so we're excited about the direction. And in math, we improved in almost every subgroup. And from 2012 until 2016, Wareham Middle School was designated as among the lowest 20% of schools. Now we are 38% partially meeting targets. So we're out of that initial 20% below, and we're rising above, and we're above where the state would consider we need any technical assistance. When we present on the 25th, you will hear from the middle school specifically, and they will engage you in some, I would assume, hopefully you'll be excited about all of the things that they have put in place. It's quite a dynamic environment. Mm-hmm. And our leader has done a phenomenal job this year. We're blessed. And at the high school, as you can see, exceeded all the way through, high scores. And in math, if you look at your data, it's kind of interesting. The chart actually has more of our students in the, I go exceeding, but in the advanced category, which is interesting because often our students tend to sit at the needs improvement and proficient, but with the math, you have a higher level of advanced, and then the next little bit with the next proficient level, and the needs improvement and the failing is minuscule comparatively. There's this trend, and you can see it in pattern in the data, which is also very exciting. And Wareham High School was 85% meeting target. Wareham was among the 68% of schools that received a target percentage of 50 or higher, indicating that the school is improving, and Wareham was among the other 74% of schools designated not requiring assistance or intervention. And here's the chart of our history since 2008. They didn't name it level 3 until 2012. Prior to that, they called it corrective action. That's why there's a change in the language. It's more the departments change. And the number of 58 puts us ahead of many other schools around. I actually downloaded that chart to see where we fit, and we're higher than the center, which is very exciting. We're moving in the right direction. So that's the presentation.
Well, thank you. It's a lot to take in, and it's very exciting.
It is very exciting.
At every level. I want to go back to just one thing that you just said about students moving from, what is the right? It used to be from proficient to advanced. Is that still okay? So, and you know, there was a lot of emphasis on moving students from needs improvement into proficient, and it's really great to hear that they're still moving from proficient into advanced, because
That's where we're heading across the board, even when I talk about kindergarten and first grade, and I talk about being in the blue, right?
Right,
kind
it's the
of
same
that.
thing, it's the same thing, yeah.
It's really shooting for that level of knowledge in whatever it is that we're doing, right? Right out of the gate. Because then the likelihood, we won't struggle so much, because we kind of hover right there at that partially meet. It's better than not, and I'm very grateful that we have some momentum, but we really need to move. We need to keep moving.
Also, I agree with you in the it's one test on one day, but it's still really great progress, and, you know.
It's fantastic. It's really nice that we don't spend a lot of time teaching to the test. That culture's changed a bit, and I think that has a lot to do with the success, to be honest. We're looking at how we teach students and what it is each student needs, and looking more at the premise of having a democratic institution where we're helping students make good choices, think critically, and become active participants in their own lives.
And to be able to say that you're not teaching to the test, but the scores are still going up.
Well, that's why.
Right.
They're going up, in my opinion. I think that when schools were in trouble, for a long time the pressure was on, and so people didn't know what to do. And I think that didn't empower the professionals that are in front of our kids as much as they needed to be empowered. And we still need to work on that, because they're the experts in the field. So we continuously work on helping them to feel really good about the decisions that they make. And I think it was statewide and probably countrywide. So it's not just Wareham, right? It's everywhere. But I think having the sentiment of my local or the Massachusetts assistant superintendents that I meet with, I go to school, so I can hopefully learn to be a better leader. But the people that I meet with are all on that same page. Enough is enough, right? We need to take our schools back and really start to re-empower the people that have somehow had the legs cut out from underneath them as a result of these numbers. So I think our level of success has a lot to do with the fact that we're saying, you know what, no, I think we know what we need to do.
Well, I know that this data is a big part of what this report is. And
Some
so
of it.
this,
It's a smaller part. It's in there in detail, yes.
well, it's part of it, yes.
Yes.
So it's really great to get this tonight ahead of that also, to be able to
Hopefully
use
it's
it together.
helpful.
It is helpful, yeah, it's very helpful. I'm sorry, does anyone else have any questions, or?
Hi, all right, so I'll just go one school at a time. So the Minot Forest School, if we go to those slides. So based on the 2018 target, quite literally, it's exceptional.
It is
I mean,
exceptional.
I mean, quite literally. I mean, it's a couple little, met, and I'd be thrilled with that, but we've exceeded, all right? But, and this is just me trying to wrap my brain around how we're doing it now these days, or the state's doing it these days. So, okay, 92%, if you want to scroll to the 92% meeting targets, all right? But yet, what's not on that slide, but it's at the DESE website, we're in the 28th percentile of accountability. So what's the disconnect? Is it because, yes, we exceeded these targets, but were the targets maybe a little modest?
No, I think it has, I'm still trying to figure out how they're doing that, because they're carrying that over from the past
I'm glad I'm not the only one that doesn't understand that.
No, it's
All right.
very, it's a lot to, I mean, I spend eons of hours trying to figure out what we need to focus on, right? What's most important in all of that data. And to look at that accountability, and I've looked at that for a long time, and I think...
It doesn't change the longer you look at it.
And that number, as a matter of fact, is very, very difficult to move, right, overall. I spoke to them a little bit about that, but they they're sort of carrying that over, and so we have these numbers, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about that, the high school last year was at 27, now they're at 42. So you say, well, are we taking that and using that, or are we not? Like, I'll take it for the high school, for example.
Yeah.
But do you see what I mean? So I'm not really sure. I can look into that further and try to figure it out. I'm more concerned about what's in front of you, to be honest, because I feel like we have our handle on that. Like, we can do something about it.
Well, and I see, so I kind of see a frustration with what you saw in the press about, they compared with the state, all right? They just went by the state. But the truth is, I think, you're both right. I mean, so they were just comparing with the state. And how many, what is it, 300 and something towns in the state, right? They all take the same test. We're all taking, and you can, say what you want about standardized testing. But if you're all taking the same test, it means something if certain schools or towns did better than others.
It doesn't mean anything when you can't control all the variables. It only means something if you can control. If in a true experiment, if
you're looking to buy a home, it means something.
Yes, but it would be to a degree. I agree with you. However, we're not, if you look at our number and you look at other towns today, we're right there with a lot of those towns in our overall number.
Oh, yeah, and I'll get to that. And I have, I'll tie it back into that. But I want to I'll skip the middle school for now. We'll go to the high school.
Might I just comment on that? It's the same test that we're taking, but there are a lot of variables. Ooh. Our students are in antiquated classrooms. We're operating on half the budget of other schools. We have less help. We have a town that we're trying desperately to get support from. So there's a lot of variables in this. Everything down to how many books you have, how many teachers you have, the environment you're trying to learn in. There are so many things surrounding this that it's just so frustrating that our kids deserve the same scenario in order to be measured exactly the same is very, very frustrating.
And I agree, and that's why I'm saying you're both right. It's just.
Well, yes, but I also think that it's really important when people choose to say something, that they remember that we have students here, we have children here, that we're trying to build up and create something spectacular for them on a shoestring, by the way. On a shoestring budget, right? We are trying to give them every single opportunity so that they have the fighting edge when they go out, right? And believe it or not, because of the grit that we all have and the different hats, as you heard the town treasurer wears, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the town treasurer, right? We have all these hats that we wear because there's very few of us, but we're doing it. And I guess that's my point. So if a story has to come out, or you need a headline, it just might be nice to think about all of the elements of that because you are affecting children when you make these decisions, right? And so that's all I say, is like, look a little bit deeper, give us a call. Ask us some questions and we're happy to talk to you. This got no one was contacted, no one was, nobody had a chance to dialogue, nothing. And so it's just, and I understand they're right in their assessment. Okay, fine.
There tends to be a slant towards wanting to report the negative as much as possible. Instead of saying Wareham scores better than previous year, they chose to find the negative portion thereof. And that's very frustrating. And I think there's got to be a little bit more accountability on the media standpoint.
For the 300 people who are working on a shoestring in the district, who are trying, and they have scores like this in front of them, and they're celebrating, right? And then that happens, and it's just, it kicks the legs out from underneath you again. You're making some gains, and then suddenly it won't, all of this will go away in a minute because we're too busy, really, to give it too much time, to be honest, and the next whatever will come. But I'm passionately involved here and engaged and feel as though it's our duty to protect our children.
And to celebrate their success.
Exactly.
Okay. So I wanted to skip to the high school, but actually, while still on mine, I got to ask what I ask every time we have good results. All right, so what did we do different that made it, what do we need to keep doing?
Right, so I have, right, I think that's a good question because I ask myself the same question. And there were some significant differences. The literacy work that we've been doing at the kindergarten, that first year, we brought right through to grade 4, right? The students had access to those strategies and those skills, and that helped a lot. When Tracy was over there as a part-time assistant principal and part-time at the middle school, she worked with the department chairs at the middle school, and they came over and they did the graphic organizer that has helped the middle school's English scores become higher through the time where they do these school-wide writes.
Yeah,
So the school-wide writes started. Then we had the math. They did a scope and sequence with the new math program and shared those with all the 3rd and 4th grade teachers. Linda Warner went over and did some Google Classroom because now the program that we have Envision hooks up with Google Classroom. And we had benchmark assessments, many that we instituted and said these have to happen. So there were, and we had Robin Murphy and Joan Siemens engaged and involved in having the work that they did with their staff and their culture and the morning meeting, and there were a number of things, and you'll hear all about that in this report, which is very exciting on the 25th. But there were a number of variables that changed as a result of what we had when we looked at the prior year results. We thought, oh, you know what I mean? Like, we need to do something here. And so we all came together, and it made a difference, we see.
So how much of what you just said can we keep doing this year? For example, I know
Doing it all.
Miss Tracy, I'm sure, is a little busy this year being the principal at the middle school, so she won't be helping at.
Well, we have the department chairs
Okay.
at Minot.
Right.
So they're hooked in, and we have the same benchmarks. And Joan and Robin we're still doing all the literacy work, and Joan and Robin are working really hard with scheduling and making sure the teachers are in the right place at the right time with the right amount of support. So all of those details and the elements that have to happen are still happening currently, which is very exciting.
Okay. All right, great. Let's move to the high school. Okay, so I just go here as sort of a juxtaposition to get to that accountability number and how it's like, it's still baffling. All right, so you look at the Wareham High School, and okay, first page, we're blue except for one, and it didn't change, so that it didn't go down either, so that's great. All right, and then on the next page, we're exceeding or improving or meeting. I mean, all in the right direction. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 85% meeting targets. So we're 85% meeting targets here, and we're at 42% accountability, but yet we're 92% at Minot at 28. And
I know, I don't get it.
And if you don't get it, I feel a little better.
Sorry, I wish I understood.
Because I mean, I need to get it. One way or the other, we need to get it.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm guessing that what the state is doing, which is a good thing, is that it's making the schools compare just themselves, to how they're doing each year, if they're improving or not, and they're not comparing it to other schools. They're just having districts compare within themselves, is my guess. And then the low number is comparing to other schools.
All right, and so if we do the middle school now. And I'll skip, well, so I mean, there's a mixed bag, right? So
Yes.
we've got improving, we're meeting, we're exceeding, we're declining, we're not changing. I mean, no change is okay. I mean, we're not declining. It's not, we could do better, but we're not, didn't change. So again, next page, we're improving. We didn't meet the targets, but we're improving. But the next slide, I think, is a little misleading, and it's not your fault, because I think that came straight from.
It did.
Yeah, it is what it is. So I'm looking at 38% partially meeting targets. And I'm a big, like, apples to apples guy, and I want to know what the percentage is for meeting the targets.
50.
50? So all right, so did you do that math, or is it just available?
No, it was on the website.
Oh, yeah, so I didn't see that. All right, good.
I read it, and
Oh,
I
good.
think I'm almost sure I'm right, because I was like, what does that actually mean, and how does that relative to what we're doing, so.
And so on this one, yeah, we're at 20%. This one makes a little more sense to me. We're in, 20%. But now getting back to, sorry to jump around like this.
That's okay.
All right, so Wareham is designated as not requiring assistance or intervention. So how can we have a school that's the bottom 20% and not need any intervention? Like, how do you,
Yeah, but
how
the
does that
district-
happen?
But the school's over, the district is not.
But the school is.
But they're not. Because they're still above where they.
We're not needing assistance because the Department of Ed is deeming us as making progress.
Right.
So if you
Yeah,
look at our
improving,
achievement, and if you look at our growth, which is
Which
part
you
of.
have in your
Is
packet.
part of the packet for the 25th, we're
Huge.
making steps, we're gaining. So if we weren't gaining, then we would be
Then
in
we would be
need.
in trouble.
So I guess that answers my other question, like what does it take to get in the needing assistance? I guess if we weren't
We've been
improved.
in it.
We've
No,
been in it
No,
all these
this
years.
this year.
The
I mean,
lowest
this
10%.
lowest, is it 10 or 15?
10.
All right. So all right, let's go to the very last slide. And this kind of gets to again, I mean, we both don't get it, but we need to understand this at some point. So let's, I guess, skip to 2012, which is, when we started measuring level 3. So 2012, we're in the 50s. 2013, we're in the, we dropped to the 40s. We dropped to the 30s. 2017, that's the new system. It's not applicable. And then Shazam, we're at 58. So that's what I'm wondering.
Well, these are quantified with different, like these numbers here are using different parameters around how they're quantifying that number. Then they change the criteria,
yeah, and
and they quantify using another set of variables, which then gets us to the 58.
But I need to know, are we lowering the bar? I don't know.
Well, I think if you looked at the
No,
list.
we meaning the state.
Well, I wouldn't say so because they
No,
claim that the
Wareham is
test-
not, Wareham is not lowering the bar.
Right, no.
But is the state lowering
Well,
the bar?
I don't think so. I don't think so, and the reason why is because the test is actually more complex and harder than what the prior MCAS test was.
Exactly.
So
And the standards are higher.
the standards are higher, and so I think honestly our kids will probably do better because of because I think they're a lot smarter than anybody gives them credit, but that's just me. I mean, I think that the test gives them ways in which they can challenge what they're really good at.
And we can give you examples of the old MCAS compared to the new MCAS, the next generation MCAS. The writing requirements that are required of our third graders are immense. Immense. So they're definitely not lowering the
No,
bar.
and I don't mean the actual questions of maybe the actual
How they
how they weighted
calculate
and
it?
calched and everything.
Well, I think they've changed
No,
some
I've looked
of
at the
it, so-
questions. You can see the actual stuff, and it's like, oh man,
Yeah, I
whoa,
can't do that. I know.
jeez, prisms and other stuff. So, but no, I wonder if there's some algorithm that's different now that
Well, it is different.
It is different.
But
I mean, the algorithm is definitely different, but
but
they're.
effectively lowering the bar. I mean, that's a huge jump but no explanation.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, you can finish it.
I think that was it. But I hate to end on that note because Minot Forest did an awesome job. I mean, awesome. Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, even if the targets were modest, who cares? It's going the right way,
Which is exciting,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and the high school. On the one hand, they're right behind them as far as the successes and stuff, but they're way ahead of them as far as the accountability.
Right.
So the high school's
I
got
know,
a lot to brag about too.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do, which is good.
The one thing I did question and I was trying to figure out is, I'm on the website now.
Yeah.
The district's determination of need for special education, technical assistance, or intervention meets requirement. What's that mean?
The technical assistance is when so part of that needing of assistance can be connected to your overall need or a subgroup. So a district could do very, very well with their overall population and not do well with their special education population and be in need of assistance.
Right, so it looks like we're in need of assistance for special ed, is that
We
correct?
are not.
No.
It says it meets requirement though for it. That's
No.
what I don't understand.
No, we are no need of assistance.
Okay,
We've met I think,
it says it right here.
because we've met the requirement to not be in
not
need
have
of
it?
assistance.
Okay, they need to reword it then.
They
'Cause
need to
it's
do a lot of
confusing.
things.
Yeah.
Because when that says not requiring assistance or intervention, it means as a district or in any subgroup.
Correct.
Right.
Because that's all subgroups.
Mhm.
Which feels good because we did need help for a long time in special education, for
Mhm.
example, and other subgroups, and now we've redesigned some of the leadership teams and put some people in place, and I think that there's the support. I mean, we've got counselors and partnerships and things that we're keeping, that people needed, and amazingly, with everyone's hard work, right? It takes everyone to participate. You know, Kim's connections and Jane's connections and Scott, and then how every school welcomes people from, who want to help. There's a real sense of unity and care that happens here that's quite magical. So in many ways, this is really just one little grain of sand. It's one, right, and yet we will continue to pay attention. It's not as though we're saying that and then ignoring it, but we're certainly not going to teach to it.
And I also, we have to give our thanks and appreciation to our staff
Yes,
as well.
amazing.
Because they have worked
Amazing.
and continued to hang on and have done the right thing for our students. So we certainly need to recognize all their efforts.
Absolutely, and that's why I said, I didn't say, Miss Siemens, great job. I was like, Minot Forest, great job, really good. In high school too, obviously.
Yeah, we have a lot to, they're a great bunch of people, and feel honored to be part of their lives.
And so when you take your book and you start looking for it, what we also look at is how does our data connect? Because we don't want just one piece of information showing us growth or showing us areas where we need to improve. So we look at where our patterns are, how we set our goals, how did we meet our goals, and so that you will see in this book that will be presented at the next meeting. But please, if you have questions before, if you don't understand something, because there is some detail in there, let us know. We'd be happy to answer.
And I would also appreciate feedback on its user friendliness to you. Is this material that you've been provided done in a way that was easy for you to access and understand? And if there were places where you didn't, it would be very helpful for me to know, because I'll change it up for the next time we present it, or find a better way to do it, right? Because there's a lot of time spent in formatting and trying to figure out the best way to get a lot of information out, but have it be easy to access and not too complicated, right? So let me know. I appreciate the feedback.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for all your hard work, and congratulations to our schools, the students, and to the staff that have made this possible.
So next on the agenda is the acceptance of gifts.
Yes, I have 4 gifts that I would be asking the committee to accept. The first one, 50 hand made hats and mittens filled with school supplies for the DECA students from the Knit Wits of West Wareham. Let me go ahead. 100-plus backpacks filled with school supplies for DECA students from Wayne Morrison and his foundation for rock music. 1 trombone to the Wareham Middle School, 1 keyboard, guitar, drums to the Wareham Middle School. I would ask the committee to please accept those 4 gifts.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, 500.
Okay. I would like to remind everyone of town meeting on October 22nd. The National Honor Society from the high school, the members will be offering free childcare beginning at 6 o'clock and will end at 9 o'clock. If you would like to have your child in this free program, it will be at the high school gymnasium. I would also like to thank our Beyond School Time program, who was recently awarded a grant of $27,500 in a quality enhancement grant. These grants were awarded to 99 programs across the Commonwealth. They range from $12,000 to $30,000, but not only schools were eligible, Boys and Girls Club, community centers, YMCA, so we're very grateful that our school was awarded one of these grants. Recently, Ken Buckland from the town put together some energy grant and with the green energy schools. With this, we had people coming around looking in our schools for energy efficient measures. And because of this, I've sat with the folks that did this. The preliminary report has that we will be receiving some energy efficient equipment and upgrades. So we're very grateful for that. We're also going to be following up and having conversations about upgrading HVAC in our high school and middle school because there are a number of grants out at this point, and we'd like to be able to take advantage of them if we could. School bus safety is the week of October 15th and 19th. We will be holding bus evacuation drills, so if your children are coming home a little bit late, a drill could have happened in the afternoon. We certainly will make notice of parents by our phones. Schools are looking for volunteers. If you have time and would like to be involved, please stop by the school or the superintendent's office. Anyone is eligible to come in, but you must have a CORI and have a pass CORI in order to work with our students. Early childhood special ed screening dates, children living in the community, ages 3 to 5. The dates begin October 26th, January 25th, and March 8th. The screenings will be held at DECAS. There'll be a number of 2 community forums to learn more about the proposed elementary buildings. October 13th at 10 o'clock is the first one at the Wareham Free Library. There will be a tour of Minot immediately following this, this session. And October 15th at 6 p.m. in the middle school auditorium. And as Mrs. Morgan suggested, the DECAS tour may take place on October 15th, and we would do it before the tour because we have another meeting after the 6 o'clock meeting. And just a reminder, no school tomorrow for students and no school on Monday. And October 19th, MCAS results will be sent out to parents and guardians. And Nature's Classroom, and I know you're all excited about this, you have the opportunity to help support a 7th grader attend Nature's Classroom. So if anybody would like to help a student, $10 will get you a calendar, and we would be happy to take your money and pass it on to the middle school. If you would like to go to the middle school and buy these calendars, they would be very happy. Students are extremely excited about spending a week in the wilderness, and this would help them get there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I have reports now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Bills.
All right, so we have to do the approval of bill and payment warrants. You have some listed. The ones that you don't have listed, September 29th, in the amount of $864,012.69. Bill warrant, October 11th, in the amount of $28,146.51. $3,211.48, and $32,730.24. I would ask the committee to please approve all the bill warrants and payroll warrants.
There a motion to approve? Is there a second? Everybody sleeping? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 500.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the report of the school committee. Before we do the mask items, are there any other reports of the school committee?
Oh, just a question, has the policy review been constituted yet?
I believe it has. Is that true? Mhm.
But there's a full board? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good, awesome.
Yep, on October 22nd, at what time? 5, so before town meeting is the first meeting. Yep. Okay, so the first thing that we'll need to do is appoint a voting delegate and alternate to participate in the meeting of the mass conference on Friday, November 9th at 3:15. I will be there on Friday. Will anyone else be there on Friday?
I might be.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be. At 3, though?
3:15 is the meeting, yeah.
Well, I could be an alternate, right?
Okay, okay. So, do you want to be the delegate?
Happy to do so.
Okay. And so, what we need to do now is just go through the resolutions. It doesn't require a vote, it just requires a general consensus. I think there's 9 of them, but we can go through them quickly. Okay. The first one is rejecting the arming of educators. Did everyone get a chance to look at them, so we don't have to, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to go into detail.
Okay, so, in general, is everyone in agreement with that one? That they are, they reject that notion of providing teachers with,
I think we should, pass on this one. And
I would have to agree.
okay.
you know, just a no vote. I mean, not a no vote, just we'll pass on voting on that one.
Okay. Are you okay with that? Are you,
That's fine.
Mary, how do you feel about it?
That's fine.
The second one is small and rural districts. They're proposing that they put together a group to address some of the problems that are affecting small and rural districts, I think mostly in western Massachusetts. Lack of staffing and students. Is everyone okay with that one? Okay.
I'm okay, yes.
Okay. Number 3 is the elimination of the Federal Department of Education. So one of the things that the administration has proposed is to combine it with the Department of Labor. And so MASC is opposed to that. So by agreeing, we would agree that we were opposed to the combination of those departments at the federal level. How does everyone feel about that? We're going to pass on that one, too? Does no one have a strong opinion on that? Okay. Regional school transportation. They're just hoping to look into that a little bit further because apparently there's a lack of bidders. I know that's kind of foreign to us. So we can either agree with it or pass on that one, too. We're not going to be voting on anything when you're there. You'll have an easy day. Does everybody want to pass on it?
I'm
Agree with
comfortable
it?
passing on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Reporting and accountability standards.
I had questions about this one, and I don't know if anyone here can answer them, but the second whereas, it mentions, whereas private and home schools should be subject to governmental regulation that assures a minimum standard of instruction under the law. I mean, is that trying to make sure that, is this thing trying to, like, basically make private schools do MCAS or
Only
something?
only if they receive funding.
Right.
No, I mean, they're little, they're private for a reason. They do separate, their curriculum is not aligned.
Only if they receive funding.
But their curriculum wouldn't be aligned at all, like with the state standards, right?
Well, usually it is.
But then if they're accepting money from the
Yeah.
state or the federal government,
Right.
then yes,
Yeah.
I think it should.
I don't like it, but I mean, if you guys feel otherwise,
Mhm.
yeah.
I agree with that one, too. Okay. So I think the consensus on that one is yes. Yes. Number 6, reproductive health education. This one I was actually surprised at. So apparently there's been a move to change sex education. Did everyone get a chance to read that? They want to change the curriculum from evidence-based programs to prevent teen pregnancy to programs that teach abstinence.
Is that for real?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Further, we call upon the U.S. Department of Education and the executive branch to stop their support of abstinence-only education.
Right. So if you agreed with this, then no, the mask is saying that they support keeping it the way it is.
Oh, I agree with that.
They want to keep it abstinence.
They want to, no, they want to keep it the way it is instead of going back.
Yeah, they're not supporting the
Yes.
other. That's like going backwards.
Okay. The next one, gender identity inclusive athletic participation policy. Honestly, I'm surprised that we're even talking about this. I thought this would just be a given, but apparently it's not, so.
I didn't see it, so I'm just reading up on it right now. I don't know how I missed it.
So what they're proposing is to help file legislation that will help protect students.
I don't know that that's what this says. I'm trying to just understand what this would mean.
It would mean, well, the way I understand it, it would protect those students. It would effective protecting students from discrimination, harassment, and bullying by
All
those.
of that, I'm trying to understand the inclusive athletic participation policy. All students are allowed to participate in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
have
mean,
to do
no,
with
maybe.
gender, though. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess why would there need to be special, kids just shouldn't be harassed or bullied, period, right? I mean, yeah, so I don't like how it carves out just a special thing. Just don't let people get harassed or bullied.
Well, I think, right, but I also think it's similar to a hate crime, so, you know.
And hate crimes are illegal.
Well, right, but there's a difference between it, you know, that there's a level that brings it up to being a hate crime, and so I think that perhaps it's the same concept.
Like to pass on it if we could.
Okay, if there's no consensus, no, okay. Well, no, I don't want to pass on it either, I want to agree with it, but if there's not a consensus, then we can pass on it.
Let me briefly look at it again. I'm trying to remember the exact.
This one right here.
We have another meeting.
Yeah, it has to
before-
do with, like,
Before there's any voting.
Can we wait till the next meeting? If
I would
that's-
say let's maybe table this and let everyone have a chance to relook at
Okay.
some of these that we're passing on, because I think every vote does count, and I want to make sure that we're up to speed on that. That's just my opinion.
Well, right, but I mean, we did have these for a week to read already. So if there isn't a consensus, we'll just pass on that one.
No, I'm all right with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So Laurie, you're okay, so
Yeah.
there is a consensus, okay. Thank you. The next one is about sports wagering. The way I understand it, the bottom line is that casinos are now legal in Massachusetts, and should sports wagering also become legal, they'd like that money to go to education. So, how can you say no to that? Yeah? Yeah. I don't believe it's legal yet, but they're just getting ready in case it becomes legal.
They want how much money to go to?
I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Sorry.
They want how much of the money to go to us?
A portion, not all of it.
I mean, I'd support anything, right?
Okay, I mean, why would you say no? Okay, all right. The next one is access to information for parents and students who are clients of special education. Did you read this one, Mary? Can you explain this one to us?
Refresh my memory.
Well, what it pretty much says is that parents would be supplied, would be given information, including assessments, ahead of an IEP meeting. Honestly, I'm not.
I don't understand, because they have the right to the assessments 2 days prior to the meeting.
How many days?
2 days.
This says 5 days.
5 days?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know how difficult it is, I would not be in agreement.
Okay.
It's difficult for staff sometimes to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I wrote your name on that one because I thought
Thanks.
I would defer to you.
I was going to say, I'll defer to the special eds.
From the
expert.
opposite end of the spectrum, I would like 5 days' notice. Yes.
Okay. Do you get 2 days' notice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shoot, now.
Now we're torn.
So a parent with a student on an IEP, the more time a parent has to prepare for what needs to be negotiated or talked about, the better.
Mm-hmm.
No, I understand. It just puts a lot of pressure on staff that are overwhelmed as it is, that's all.
Understood.
So, I mean, we're here for the kids,
But-
right?
And the
So let's do it for the kids. Yeah, and the parents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Someone was saying, though, too, the quality of the report may not be as good either if they're rushed. So, I mean, I think that's something important to think about.
Maybe you should have the sports betting money staff.
Right. Okay, and then the next one is they.
I did neither, thank you. I'm like,
I see both sides.
I'm a
I
yes.
understand why,
I do too,
yes.
but-
Yeah, so, you're right, we are here for the kids, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a yes, yep. And the last one, I think, yes, the last one, is the proposal to amend the bylaws. They just want to change a date from June 1st to July 1st. Or July 1st to June 1st. That one's, I'm sure they have their reasons, so I would say yes to that.
Fine.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
It's like nothing.
All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end. Is there any other business that was not anticipated 48 hours prior? All I would like to say quickly, I promise, is that I really do appreciate all the cooperation that's been going on with the school building committee, with all the other boards in town. It's really great to see the town coming together behind this project, and I just hope that that goes forward. So I just want to say thank you for that. And then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Andrea, nice job.
Hi, I'm Joyce. I'm